Galaxies, millions of light years apart, seem to be connected by invisible, large-scale structures. We're all connected, a statement that may evoke an eye roll from someone you express this to. This is common when it comes to such topics, or any topic that dives into the spooky world of quantum physics, which seems to be directly intertwined with philosophy and metaphysics in various ways. These subjects are going to really conflict with the belief systems of many, and that's okay. Quote, "There is nothing new to be discovered in physics now. All that remains is more and more precise measurement," end quote. This statement was made by Lord Kelvin, the famous Scottish mathematician and physicist who contributed to many branches of physics, in 1900, and shattered only 5 years later when Einstein published his paper on special relativity. The new theories proposed by Einstein challenged the current framework of understanding, forcing the scientific community to open up to an alternative view of the true nature of our reality. This serves as a great example of how things that are originally taken as truth can suddenly turn out to be fiction. This type of thing is happening quite often today, and with most of us trying to put food on the table and pay our bills, we don't really have time to keep up with what's being discovered. When it comes to the connection between all living systems, there are a number of examples one could use from many different fields of study. We see connection in all different forms, including all the way down to the smallest bits of matter, the physical stuff that our world is made up of. In quantum entanglement, for example, particles remain connected so that if you separate them, regardless of distance, whatever actions are performed on one of them affect the other. This has been seen with photons, for example. This strange connection is not only seen at the smallest levels of the physical world, but also in large scale. This has been demonstrated by a new study published in the Astrophysical Journal last October, which found that hundreds of galaxies were rotating in sync with the motion of galaxies that were tens of millions of light years away. This is a new discovery and the new phenomenon that came from studying 445 galaxies within 400 million light years of our planet. The observed coherence is quite astonishing, and the authors hypothesized that it must have something to do with the, quote, large-scale structures, end quote, that are perhaps connecting them, causing them to move so precisely in sync as they do, especially given the fact that the galaxies observed are separated by approximately 20 million light years. Somehow, quote, directly interact with each other, end quote. Somehow they directly interact with each other. This is what Jup Hiop Lee said, an astronomer at the Korea Astronomy and Space Center Institute. The paper suggested that the synchronized galaxies are somehow embedded along the same large-scale structure, which is slowly rotating in a counterclockwise direction, and could be an explanation for the coherence seen between the rotation of these galaxies and their neighbors. Obviously, a lot is still unknown. Quote, "The dynamical coherence, even out to millions of light years, was unexpected and surprising to us because such distances are obviously too far for neighbor galaxies to directly interact with each other," end quote, says Jup Hiop Lee, first author of the study, from CASI at Daejeon, Korea. Nevertheless, since the observational evidence supports the interaction origin of the dynamic coherence, we could not but think of the possibility that it is the vestige of past interactions. These large structures are, as of now, invisible. Astronomers can't identify what they are, but the discovery hints to the idea that the structures are made predominantly of dark matter that links these galaxies in some sort of cosmic web, as galaxies and space in general seem to be dominated by dark matter. This is where the world of non-material science comes in, as we start to bridge the gap that seems to separate science and metaphysics. More is unknown than is known. We know how much dark energy there is because we know how it affects the universe's expansion. Other than that, it is complete mystery. But it's an important mystery. It turns out that roughly 68% of the universe is dark energy, dark matter makes up 27%. The rest, everything on Earth, everything ever observed with all of our instruments, all normal matter, adds up to less than 5% of the universe. So come to think of it, maybe it shouldn't be called normal matter at all, since it is such a small fraction of the universe. Non-material and visible substances dominate our world. They are not perceivable to the senses, but they can be detected. If you've looked into dark matter, you may also know that what scientists refer to as the quantum vacuum is often mistaken for dark matter or dark energy, but we don't hear about this in mainstream channels. Nassim Haramein said, "Space is actually not empty and it's full of energy. The energy in space is not trivial. There's a lot of it, and we can actually calculate how much energy there is in that space, and that really might actually that reality might actually come out of it. Everything we see is actually emerging from this space." This idea was illustrated decades ago with the Casimir effect, which demonstrates what's called zero-point energy. Today, we are beginning to see that these concepts are not just theoretical, but instead are very practical. This is why it's interesting to point out how multiple scientists over the past little while have been expressing the idea that what we call dark matter might actually be mistaken for this zero-point energy. Take, for example, this Defense Intelligence Agency unclassified document entitled Warp Drive, Dark Energy, and Manipulation of Extra Dimensions. It was written and prepared for the agency by senior research physicist Richard K. Obuski, PhD, and Eric W. Davis, PhD. When it comes to dark energy, here's what the paper says. Although we know what dark energy does, we do not yet fully understand its nature. We do not understand why it exists or how it is created. We simply know it provides an ever-present force on space-time, causing the universe to expand. Indeed, recent high-precision experimental observations indicate dark energy may be a cosmological vacuum energy. These observations are based on the magnitudes of high redshift supernova and have been a source of high research activity of late, owing to the unexpected discovery that the rate of expansion of the universe is increasing, commonly referred to as accelerating expansion. This is what now is being accepted as the substance of space. Space is not empty. If you look at an atom, it's mostly made up of empty space. But the space is not actually empty, it's full of energy. Nikola Tesla was well aware of this abundance and force at the turn of the 20th century. Quote, "All perceptible matter comes from a primary substance or tenuity beyond conception, filling all space, the akasha, or luminiferous ether, which is acted upon by the life-giving prana, or creative force, calling into existence in never-ending cycles all things and phenomena," end quote. This is what Nikola Tesla said in Man's Great Achievement, 1907. The late Parahamsa Tewari recently had a paper published in Physics Essays, the paper titled Structural Relation Between the Vacuum Space and the Electron, and you can access the full study in the link here. Tewari also points out that dark matter has been mistaken for the ether. Tewari says ether has got to be, once again, established. Then there will be the meaningful understanding of physics, meaningful understanding of metaphysics, and meaningful understanding of the spiritual processes. I believe that there is something non-physical connecting these galaxies, connecting space and connecting time in ways that we are just beginning to understand, and I believe that what's beyond this non-physical substance is consciousness. The takeaway? Science still has a long way to go with regards to making discoveries about our universe, as there are many more questions than answers. But something seems to be a common theme, and that's the fact that invisible forces like dark matter, dark energy, and the zero-point energy field are key components with regards to the structure and nature of reality. What's even more fascinating? The fact that consciousness itself may play an integral role in shaping how our physical world behaves. You cannot go into quantum physics without diving into consciousness. Max Planck, the theoretical physicist credited with originating quantum theory, a feat that won him Physics Nobel Prize in 1918, offers perhaps the best explanation of why explanation for understanding consciousness is so essential. He says, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness, and we cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness, end quote. Perhaps the universe itself is consciousness. This was originally created for Collective Commons. Galaxies millions of light years apart seem to be connected by invisible large-scale structures, and it's here on Collective Spark by under Creative Commons by Steve McCambly. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.